Kia ora, this program is brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Wellington Access Radio, make your voice heard.
What? That's us now.
Yeah.
Hey, you're on Access Radio 106.1 FM, and welcome to the Blackhouse with Leah and Tommy and myself, Leah. This show's focused on the African New Zealand experience, and we want to tell you our stories in our own voices, what's happening in Wellington and around the country too. And we have a couple of topics this first hour, but first of all, I think we better introduce ourselves. What do you think?
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Tommy,
Yes.
tell me about where it was that you were born and, how you got to be here.
Well, I was born in Wellington, Wellington, and I grew up in Newtown, and my parents, they had come from Sudan under the New Zealand family reunification law, much like a lot of people in the late 90s. So we're talking about people from Iraq, we're talking about people from Somalia, we're talking about people from South Sudan. Where in these parts of the world, there had been some wars, and so they had came under this wave of refugee status people. Some were actual refugees, some people weren't, and my parents weren't. They just had come via sponsorship. And yeah, so my brother was born in Sudan. Him and my parents had came together, and then they had left the I think it was the camp in Auckland.
Right. Yeah.
So they have a camp for all these people, and then they had been taken to Christchurch, and that's when my sister was born. And then they stayed there for a year, but it was just too cold for them. They were like, we can't do this. I think my mum was getting like hay fever or things of that nature.
Right, yeah, because it's pretty cold down south.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really snowy, and we don't really want that, do we? No. So my sister was born there, and then they had came up, and I was born, and the following two siblings that I have today were born in Wellington.
At Wellington Hospital?
Yeah, at Wellington Hospital. I think Wellington's Women's Hospital. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Or is that just a ward?
I think it's just a ward, but
okay.
Yeah, I think it might have been called that though back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was, early school life like?
Well, I was real troublesome. I went to like 6 different kindergartens, and then I went to primary school.
You started early.
Yeah, I did. And then I went to Catholic schools. I went to St. Anne's, and then I went to St. Pat's.
Yeah.
So I've been in Catholic schools my whole life.
And are you yourself Catholic or?
No, I was born into a Christian Orthodox family,
right.
But like many other people from the Christian denomination had, went to Catholic schools because they liked how it was a uniform school. And presented well, but yeah. So that was me. I went to St. Anne's, St. Pat's, and now I'm at Victoria University.
Okay, so I know you're interested in a lot of things, Tommy.
Yeah.
You're pretty much an all rounder.
Yeah.
Of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what are your passions like? And especially I'd like to know. What were the things you started to get really interested in as, a teenager at high school and stuff?
Well, I think what you live for is different to what you work for. So,
right.
So I have always been passionate about, dancing, growing up,
yeah.
but traditional dancing. So I, whenever there was like an Ethiopian party, I would be there front and center. But whilst dancing, singing was really a big part of me growing up. So I guess you could say performance art, being on the stage and really putting myself out there, as well as what's it called? Anything musical. That's literally me and what's it called when it comes to passions in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So, all right, the whole concept of like African New Zealanders or Black New Zealanders or just the Black community in New Zealand is, well, this year it's 60 years.
60 years.
60 years of African, organised migration presence in New Zealand.
Wow.
So I'm wondering, like, what do you feel comfortable when you self-identify, considering you're born here?
Yes.
And you're growing up here. Like, do you just call yourself Ethiopian? Do you call yourself African New Zealander? Like, how do you feel comfortable?
I say I'm a Black Kiwi.
Right.
Period. Because I think the most important thing is recognizing that here in the West or here in New Zealand, we're Black people, we're African heritage people. And I think it's really important that, we take ownership of that identity, because for a long time in my life, I actually hated being Black.
Really?
I hated everything to my hair, to my complexion. I grew up with a lot of self-hate. And I think it's a, what's it called? It's a reflection of what had been, I guess,
Reinforced?
Yeah, reinforced.
Is this in your school environment? And
School. I could see how other kids were being treated, and I could see how people would treat my parents. Like whenever I would be with one or the other, I could see, you pick up on things just as a kid. You know what I mean? And I just hated I hated being Black. And so I kind of came into, being proud of it when I started studying, what's called African American literature, African American poets.
because there's a lot of literature from places like America, but not so much down here.
No,
Yeah.
not at all, because I guess, 400 years in America, surely they would have more than we do here in New Zealand,
Yeah.
considering we're such a young country.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
like people forget that. Like, I think
Yeah.
people forget that aspect that we're one of the last places on the planet to be colonized.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, can you remember any particular times?
Of
Yeah, that this happened.
like me,
Like when you've been in those situations with your parents and you just felt uncomfortable.
like as in when I was
Yeah, like
in public spaces.
yeah, in public spaces.
When we'd go to the store and people would follow us.
Right.
Yeah.
Shopping while Black.
Yeah, shopping while Black. And it's not limited to just, one parent or the other. It's like I could see it, but at the same time, with that being said, I could see how what's called different groups would receive my parents, and I could see it. I could see how they'd receive me, and it wasn't necessarily always welcoming, to say the least, because there's anti-Blackness in those cultures too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to another song. Tommy,
Okay,
Tommy,
yeah.
do you want to introduce
Yes,
this?
yes. What I want to let you guys know is that Leah has a playlist called African Diaspora Music Artists Down Under. We'll put the YouTube link somewhere. And the song you'll be listening to is The Key by an African Aussie by the name of Be Wise. And you're tuning into 106.1 FM with Leah and Tommy.
Let me start out with a question. Let's treat it like confession. Can see that you've been stressing. Tell me, are you okay? Every day has been a lesson. Been praying for a blessing, but nothing ever changes. So you hope for better days. Yeah. Ask me about where I've been. Been a war, been battling. Placing best best that I cannot win. Come for air, I need oxygen, Lord. This ain't on TV, nah, this ain't a dream. Made it, I know we're chasing greater things. Cause I'll be down for a minute, but I had to bring it back. The world is like a dog, and best believe that we the cat. If you're feeling isolated, alone or even try, a little bit of love will be the key, and that's a fact. I need your love, baby. Can't get enough, baby. We want your love, baby. I need your love, yeah. I need your love, baby. Yeah, I think I'm going love crazy, but I ain't just talking to the ladies. Human touch that I'm craving, lost out this life that I'm chasing. Told myself I want greatness, on the wall I had the Mercedes. But how times done change, cause now my baby wanna have a baby. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, I'm still out here chilling. She like, hold up, wait a minute, I need some commitment. I'm gonna come back and give you the love that you want, but for now just have my back until we take off. Cause I'll be down for a minute, but I had to bring it back. The world is like a dog, and best believe that we the cat. If you're feeling isolated, alone or even try, a little bit of love will be the key, and that's a fact. I need your love, baby. Can't get enough, baby. We want your love, baby. I need your love, yeah. I need your love, yeah. They say you're a dreamer until you get on, but then when they see you, they try to get some. They know that I need you, cause you're my table. I need your love, yeah. I need your love, yeah. They say you're a dreamer until you get on, but then when they see you, they try to get some. You're my table. I need your love, yeah. Check it out, check it out. 1, 2, 1, 2. Alright. Hey, good. Everything I did, man, I gotta be proud. Had to keep up when they kept me down. Prove myself, man, I did those rounds. Now I wanna be claimed, the lost and found. Word is born, we gon' make this pact. When they come to you, never turn my back. Cause a little bit of love will be the key, and that's a fact. I need your love, baby. Can't get enough, baby. We want your love, baby. I need your love, yeah. I need your love, yeah. I need your love, baby. Can't get enough, baby. We want your love, baby. I need your love, yeah. I need your love, yeah.
That was The Key by Be Wise, an African Aussie from Sydney. But, you know, I was talking about myself. What about you? What's the genesis of Leah's story?
Oh my goodness, it's such a big story. But I'm going to keep it short for the moment. I was born in New Zealand in a small maternity ward in Hunterville. And for those who don't know where Hunterville is, it's on State Highway 1 in the Rangituki district, and it's located halfway between Taupo and Wellington. And as of the 2013 census, there was 429 people there. So it's quite small. And my mum's, I'll start with my mum. My mum's background, she's Pākehā from Paikokariki, and that's on the Kapiti Coast.
Yeah.
And her parents eventually settled in Palmerston North. My dad, he was a Tanzanian man, a Hehe man from the Kalinga, from Kalinga, which is a town in the province of Iringa in Tanzania. And he came to New Zealand in 1961 as a SCAP scholar. And for those of you who don't know what a SCAP scholar is, SCAP scholar, well, the acronym stands for Special Commonwealth African Assistance Plan. But it's sometimes referred to as Special Commonwealth Aid to Africa Plan, and it started in 1960.
Yeah.
And I've read numbers in the Hansard that around 1964 there was about 200 plus students around New Zealand that were here under those SCAP scholarships. 200
African students in the 1960s.
Yeah, and it's kind of it was a different era. So I mean, I can share a little bit about how it was different. I was always told by older relatives that my mum was sent to this maternity ward before she showed the pregnancy. She was 19 years of age when I was born, so she was very, very young. She was at Victoria University studying at Vic with my dad, and basically my pop pulled rank and he said, no, you're going to go over here and you're going to stay there until you've had this baby.
Yeah.
So I've heard the building, the maternity, referred to as a maternity ward or, an orphan's home, a single mother's home. Like I've heard it referred to as all these different things.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually found any records about that particular place. But I'm actually, so if anybody out there knows about this hospital that was in Hunterville in 1966, I would love to know what it was and what it was actually, whether it was like a general hospital or whether it was just all sorts, just for maternity, people having babies or what it was. And so when I was born, basically my grandparents, my nan and pop came and they uplifted me, took me with them to their place, and my mum was sent back to Palmerston North. And my pop had this saying that, whenever I asked him questions, he said, oh, we found you in the cabbage patch. Right?
Cabbage patch.
They found me in the cabbage patch, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I thought. I actually thought I was found in the cabbage patch.
Wow.
Because my mum was not living with us, so I didn't really know who my mum was. I thought my nan and my pop were my parents. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, occasionally she'd come to visit. My dad would come to visit.
Yeah.
I've got memories of seeing him, but they're very vague memories, because he wasn't around for very long after I was born, and I don't have the exact date that he was born, that he was sent home, because he actually ended up being sent back to Tanzania, but I have an approximate date. Yeah. So there was a lot of sort of mystery about, where I popped up from.
Okay. Well, is there more to find out in terms of the SCAP students, like where people could go to?
Oh, well, finding out information about SCAP is an ongoing research project that I've been doing for myself. Yeah. It's like a personal hobby, a personal interest that I have, but also I want to use that information for another project that I want to work on later on. I'm kind of been playing with it for decades now, so, and I think it's relevant to today because I'm a great fan of history and especially the African presence in New Zealand history here. You know what I mean? I'm really interested in connecting dots. And I think that also, learning about the SCAP scholars, or why is it so hard to find out information about the SCAP scholars, can actually be quite informative on where we are right now. Yeah. Because this is our whole positioning since those times, New Zealand's positioning looking at Africa. And it's almost like we're a generation that's sort of getting smudged out of the New Zealand African story. And I really want to say, no, actually we were here. There were people that were here, and there were Africans here, and there's a whole story around that. I have found some information last night. I found it in a really unusual place. It was under South Africa and apartheid, because when they talk about, Africans, they mention the Colombo students, and they mention African students as Colombo students, when in actual fact,
they were
the SCAP scholars were the African students, and Colombo really focused on Asia. So there's the Colombo Plan and the SCAP scholars. And the SCAP scholars were specifically an African, New Zealand, and I think Australian as well, program for bringing students over. And it was like an exchange program, like New Zealanders would go over there and work over there and do things in agriculture, share knowledge, etc. And these students would come over here. Yep.
Well, you mentioned that you're a big fan of history.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is your passion? Or
I think so.
Yeah?
But it could be also because of my age. I don't know. I think I think I think history is really important because where we know where we've been, then we know where we're going. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And if you know history, you don't repeat. Well, if you're aware of history, you're least likely to repeat the same things over again. You know, and like I was thinking about that in terms of all the stuff that's going on currently. Yeah. So
Yeah. So, like, other than history, would
Well,
you
there's
consider? Yeah. What other things draw you in? What makes your heart move in terms of passion and things of that nature? Are you in the creative field?
I think I was in the creative field much more when I was younger. I have written a play. I have done performance. But, life takes over, and I was raising kids, and I'm a single mother. And I've got two sons, two amazing sons, actually. My oldest son his dad is Tongan, and my youngest son's father is also Tanzanian. So, it was always kind of funny when people met them because they'd say, "Are you two brothers?" Because they look really different, but not, because I can actually see in my Tongan sons the things that look like my brother in Tanzania.
Wow.
And I can see in my youngest son some of my features. It's
Yeah.
not completely obvious, but I can sort of see those things. So, motherhood takes up a lot of time, and especially when you're doing it on your own.
Yeah.
And but I'm also really interested to know more, more about our young people that are being born here and brought up here, whether they're African New Zealanders or whether they're both parents are African and they're born here. Like, I
Yeah.
think that this is the time that we need to be starting to look at where we are right now and what are we going to be doing moving forward, and how are we going to nurture those things that are
Yeah. You
coming up now.
You were also a Victoria student, alumni
yeah.
student?
Yeah.
What was your majors?
Well, my degree is in sociology and anthropology. I was there from 98 to 2003. I have a passion for community work. I've done a lot of it free. But I think it's more, I really like justice work. I've been quite supportive of people that have had to go to court and they need somebody there, or had to get a lawyer, or they're in prison, and making sure in our own community, in the African community here. But I never went beyond my undergraduate degree, mainly because I didn't see the point of getting into more debt when employment was so scarce in Wellington at that time I graduated. And I remember friends of mine that had their masters, and higher, if you can go higher than that, and they were struggling to find work. So there was a lot of people that left, especially. I know in the Pan-African community in Wellington, a lot of people left in the 2000s. I left in 2006, to go to Australia and work over there.
Yeah.
And I worked over there for nearly 10 years in something completely different,
Yeah.
completely non-related to my degree, yeah.
That's so interesting, because I recall people just up and leaving in large numbers. It was
huge.
It was like, wait, where did they go?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that was sort of, I know the reason that I left,
Yeah.
right? And I'm born here, grown up here, but, I would imagine if I'm struggling like that, people that have come from another country, resettled in New Zealand, and then they're still having a struggle just getting money on the table. Like, it was a non-brainer to go there,
Do you call yourself a Black Kiwi, African Kiwi? What is a term that you like to use?
I change all the time because I'm literally African and New Zealander.
Yeah.
So I change all the time. I use the generic term black, because I really identify, on my dad's side. And my dad was always, the strange thing, my dad was the constant parent in my life. My mum wasn't. So, yeah, even from a distance, he was the constant.
I guess, we're called the Blackhouse for a reason.
Yeah.
While you're tuning into 106.1 FM, the next song you guys will be hearing is Smooth Criminal by the Auckland-based Induna. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Actually, he's a Welly-based artist. I saw him at Newtown Festival.
Oh.
Yeah, and they were really good. So, yeah.
Oh, I guess that was my fault, but you're tuning into 106.1 FM. Thank you.
Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart. Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart.
Baby, you're my number one feature. Stole my heart, can you teach ya? Slide to the room when you walk in. Bad man here, big talking. Cinderella, be my señorita. Pocahontas, make her richer. 50K, that's the feature. Better yet, here's the picture.
Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart. Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart. Baby smooth criminal, never catch a rush. First she get your heart, then she get the rush. Say she want 50K or more. Say she want a Porsche, say she want a Ross. Baby, all the girls out here tryna be ya. 100 bay, they'll never feature. That's okay, they'll never be ya. That's true, that's true, that's true.
Hold it. Nobody else will do it better. Hold it. She stole my heart like a smooth criminal. Hold it. Nobody else will do it better. Hold it. She stole my heart like a smooth criminal.
Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart. Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart. Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart. Baby walked in like a criminal, smooth criminal. She stole my heart, yeah, she stole my heart.
You're tuning into 106.1 FM, but nonetheless, what is it about the Blackhouse that people need to know? What do you think, Leah?
Okay.
Okay. What is it?
Okay. All right. So the question: what's the Blackhouse about, and why do we name that? Well, I can tell you what I.
Yeah.
thought.
Why did you name it?
Well, why did I come up with the idea, and why did you agree to run with it? Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well,
that's
do you want?
Kind of how it happened.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened.
Okay.
What do you wanna go first in terms of?
Yeah. I'll just say what I've.
Yeah. Why did you bring up the name the Blackhouse? And I'll say why I was like wow. But yeah.
I think I actually thought it was kind of a play on the White House, but it's the antithesis of what the White House currently stands for globally. Plus, Wellington is like the capital. It's the political centre of New Zealand. So I just was like, why don't we call it the Blackhouse?
Okay, well,
because we're in the capital.
Well, the funny thing is, we were actually talking about a radio show, and we'll think about names, and I was just like, I really didn't have any ideas. I don't think I did in terms of the name. And then you see the Blackhouse, and I was like, we're doing this. We're doing this. This is not going to pass me as as a chance to really do something cool. But yeah, in terms of when we were talking about it,
Well, we started talking about it way at the beginning of the year.
yeah,
Imagining how we would run it, and I mean, Tommy's done. You've done access radio shows before, and
Yeah.
I've done, student radio, and this is years ago.
Yeah.
I'm going back, nearly 30 years, and I thought, yeah, that would be a really, I could actually ride with that, getting in and having conversations and, like talking with people about, the different things that are going on, in our community around the country. But more importantly, that you're hearing our voice, we get to hear the voices, like, you know what I mean?
yeah, the ones actually experiencing it,
Yes.
being Black in New Zealand. But yeah, we were actually thinking of doing this a long, long time ago in terms
Yeah.
of like
Well,
couple
we'd
of months.
started implementing it
Yes.
right before the lockdown.
Oh
and,
my
like,
gosh.
Everything.
Speaking of- yeah.
everything kind of like popped off during the lockdowns, and the next minute we're down not for we're down, what was it, nearly 2 months,
2 months.
and right at the end of all this other stuff jumped out, and it sort of made it more relevant
Absolutely.
to actually just do the show. Like, let's just do it because
Yeah.
and it's, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, no, like think about it. Like there's a pandemic happening.
Yeah.
Where what's it called? Well, we're not experiencing it firsthand, but we're seeing the lives of African Americans being affected so highly at this time.
Yeah.
So like, and it's actually making us question what's happening in New Zealand in terms of the racism also in New Zealand. I think when we look to America, for instance, we can not only see the similarities, but also, pay heed to what's happening.
Yeah, well, that's solidarity with Black Lives Matter movement in America, and by default, African New Zealand lives being included in the discussions with Māori and Pacifica. It just makes sense.
100%.
It makes sense, but I haven't seen our stories being centered yet. Like,
No.
and that's something that I think is really important. That because Black people aren't a monolith.
We are not.
We're not.
We're the most, according to, this is facts.
Okay.
What's it called? Africa is the most diverse continent across the globe.
right.
I think homogenous is the term that I'm trying to find. I'm going to, in the next quarter, I will definitely mention proper facts just for everyone. But nonetheless, what do you think we're about? What's our kaupapa?
Well,
What's the motivation?
okay. Well, I think, and this is just, like, this is the sort of direction I would like it to go, and it's about pulling all these threads on a tapestry. That's our African heritage, and it's extremely diverse community here in Wellington.
Yeah.
And not being exclusive, but being inclusive. So, like, I would love to talk to people around the country, do phone in interviews, or if they're even here, come in and, let's talk about what they're doing. And it's just a place where we can talk about also social and political rumblings and community events, and, a shout out to all the new African businesses that have popped up even through the lockdown in Wellington. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
To financially, financially survive in New Zealand right now, especially heading into a recession. It's like if you're working on that, that's a big deal. And I think, like, one of my friends is he's a painter and decorator, and he's employing people, and like that's really amazing, I think. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. But like I want to add to what you were talking about in terms of what I think our kaupapa is, or what's motivation. But I definitely want to say it's to essentially lift our voices and just know that there's actually a platform, because I think for a long, long time in New Zealand, like you mentioned, we haven't ever been the center of attention, or we haven't necessarily had our voices heard, rather than saying center of attention. Let me change that. So I actually really like that we can talk about the social, the political, the musical, or
Creative stuff.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You
And,
know,
and also, you know, talk about their achievements, or, you know, like what they're working on and what it is they're doing. Because, you know, like, because again, diversity is like a really big deal, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
And like I said before, I'm really interested in doing phone interviews and in studio interviews, and like you, yeah, providing a platform where everyone or anyone in our community can utilize and be a part of.
yes,
I'm really into egalitarianism.
yeah, yeah, which is a
Long
good
time
thing.
socialist, short term capitalist.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah,
And I think it's something maybe a lot of people have been wanting over the years, you know, like over the decades. It's like, you know, being born here in 66, I've lived that experience of being the other inside the community and really feeling like you're afloat. You're here, you belong, but you don't belong. You're here and you're included, but you're not really included. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the thing.
yeah. No, I absolutely see that, because it's like I could only imagine just like what's called finding, like knowing that you were like what's called one of few people of African heritage.
You know, I'd really most of my I have friends, like, you know, my sister is also, she's 4 years younger than me, half sister, same mum, different dad. She's half Ugandan, and her dad was a SCAP scholar as well. She now lives in Australia, and you know, my best friend, she's a you know, daughter of a SCAP scholar. But I haven't met anybody older than me. Like, I'd really like to know if there's more out there, because, you know, like, I'd imagine, like me, you kind of become kind of invisible, you know, especially if you've got, you know, one parent is African and the other parent is something else. It's like you can almost disappear into, you know, the code switching. Code switching was a way of surviving for me,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
You just move into another community and you're like, hey, here I am.
And then you pick up the slang.
You pick up the slang, you pick up everything.
and then you dress a certain type of way.
Yeah, and then the next thing you go off, because, you know, there wasn't anybody else around. I've got pictures from 1971 of my kindergarten.
Yeah,
It's black and, you know, newspaper clipping.
yeah.
And it's all the kids at the kindergarten in Palmerston North, and I'm this one little black spot in the middle, you know?
Yeah.
And we're checking out some lamb, you know, some farmers have brought, you know, petting zoo to the kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I've got the clipping. Actually still got the clipping from 1971. So
Wow. I never got the opportunity to pet any
oh,
lamb in kindergarten.
you're amazed at the lamb.
Yeah. No. Out of everything that you said, I'm like the lamb. But speaking of what's it called? This platform, how would you like to use it?
Well, just reiterating what I just said. You know, like,
Yeah.
Like, I think I'd like to cover topics. You know, like people who may be wondering about SCAP, for example. That's actually such a big topic.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a lot of research, but it's very hard to find it because it's buried in different government departments and in other countries. And, you know, I've had to really go into the archives to get the information. And I don't know why it is so hard, why this information isn't more easily accessible. I think, and I think that's gone away to, you know, it's gone some ways to actually, you know, kind of smudging out that era where the first African, you know, in this contemporary times, African migration to New Zealand was actually international students. You know, we had international students. That's what they were. They were scholars. And they were going back to actually do, you know, they'd take the knowledge from here and go back. But one of the, and I found the handbook, and one of the rules for them to study in New Zealand was that they must return to their country of origin.
Yeah.
That was part of the rules. So, you know...
they couldn't be Kiwis like us.
So, yeah, well...
Actually, As a result, yeah.
Yeah, but you know the thing is that then that made my situation and my birth very inconvenient.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't supposed to happen, because like in other cases you could marry, you know, your uni boyfriend, but then you had to go back with them to their country. You couldn't stay. You know, the New Zealand wife couldn't stay.
Would you say that that's a big reason why you created the playlist, African Diaspora Music Artists Down Under?
Oh no, that had nothing to do with that.
Or in terms of, you were talking about how it was so hard to find that kind of information. Do you feel that way in terms of in other areas of...
Yeah. Like, I was really surprised when I was in Australia, and I started hearing this amazing music coming out in New Zealand, and then in further, this is back in 2014, and then I saw, you know, a lot of these artists that I was liking, they were actually African Kiwis.
Wow.
And I was like, what is going on here? And then I came back to New Zealand, and, you know, I said, have you heard this guy? Have you heard that guy? People like, you know, around Newtown, they're like, no, never heard of them. And, you know, like growing up in New Zealand, you know how Māori support Māori and Polynesians support Polynesian. Why aren't we supporting our musical artists in the same way? Like,
yeah,
you know, that was a real disconnect for me. So I'd started already assembling that playlist on YouTube. But anyway, you can introduce the next
absolutely.
song there,
I
Tommy.
mean, you know, we were what's called, as you were talking about the most important things, which is, you know, now we're supporting our community and people in our community. So speaking of that, you're tuning into 106.1 FM. The next song is Sunday by Makuka. She is a Auckland-based artist. She's the one that I was trying to say before. But nonetheless, thank you.
Mama said, come with me, get your shoes on by the door. Go on, baby, get your blue dress, look at your Sunday best, ready for we go. That's me in the corner, losing my religion. Ask no questions, ain't no answers to but my conviction. It's telling me that there's more to know. But that's faith, you know, proof of things I can't see. Can I close my eyes and run and pray that you will find me? Telling me all I need to know. Mama said, come with me, put your shoes on by the door. Oh, baby, where's your blue dress? Look at your Sunday best, ready for we go. Mama said, come with me, put your shoes on by the door. Oh, baby, where's your blue dress? Look at your Sunday best, ready for we go. I've been in the corner, playing my position. Can I love you now and live to sing a different song? A different song. I don't wanna wait. I can't hold it in no more. I'ma love you now and leave. I got my own words, gotta sing my own song. Mama said, come with me, get your shoes on by the door. get your blue dress, look at your Sunday best, ready for we go. Go, baby, get your blue dress, look at your Sunday best, ready for we go. Ready for we go, 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 go.
To 106.1 FM, and the next thing we want to talk just quickly, because there's a lot of stuff going on in Wellington at the moment.
Yeah.
Tommy, you went to the meeting the other day, so talk to us about the march this Sunday. And for those of you who don't know, there's a march from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. from Wellington Civic Centre to Parliament. Is the last time I looked at Facebook, there was 3.3k people who've shown interest or going. So, Tommy, fill us in. What's going on?
What I want to do first is give a shout out to the people that are organizing it. These people are actually putting in, the mahi. They're networking. They're trying to put, they're putting a lot of integrity behind it, and it just feels really amazing. So I just want to say shout out to you guys. But when I went to the meeting, there was also a lot of support from our Māori and Polynesian people, which is awesome, because at the end of the day, we're here to be in solidarity for the Black lives in America and just stand strong. So I just want to say that in terms of the people that are organizing it and the ones that are behind everything. Yeah. So this march is going to be a symbol of not only solidarity, but it's a symbol of unity that we're finding in New Zealand. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing more powerful than coming together. That's where the real power is. The power is really just in the people. So I would definitely recommend that if you're listening right now, that you actually attend just as an ally, because we cannot allow ourselves to be desensitized by the fact that Black people in America face a lot of hardship in terms of police brutality and things of that nature, whether it's mass incarceration rates and all that. So I just want to say that. But speaking of marches, things that are going around in the States and America, plus COVID-19, what's been the thing that's been impacting your life day to day?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing with George Floyd was really horrific. And I watched the Zoom meeting that was online today. It was on Zoom today, and it featured Gulameri, Camille Naked, and Julia Waiputi, and there was 2 extra guest speakers, but I didn't catch their names. And, that whole symbolism of having, a knee on your neck, that is the symbolism of, systemic racism and oppression globally, And that was a really, that conversation was really, really good, and I do recommend that people go and have a look at that. I've had my own experiences with police violence, but I'm not going to go into it, today, because we're running out of time quickly.
Yeah.
But the other thing I'd like to mention too about the march tomorrow is that people who want to help out with making signs and banners and what have you, they'll be between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. They'll be doing sign making between at the old government buildings in Wellington, and that's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then they're all going to be walking down to Civic Square, and the march will go from Civic Square.
Could you repeat where they're going to be making that banners?
Old government buildings in Wellington is the address. Yeah, that's what I've got. So details, it's actually up on the events pages on Facebook.
Okay.
So, and it's being hosted by, now let me see, I'm
Yeah.
trying to get my phone to
Yeah.
show me what's going on. It's been hosted by the VUW Feminist Law Society. So I guess you'll find people if you make your way down there, you'll find people down there, and they've just said anyone who wants to support the kaupapa is welcome, and to bring along your lunch and some cardboard if you have any, and some passion.
Yeah.
So yeah, but back to your other question.
Yeah.
It's been heavy. It's been a heavy few weeks these last few weeks.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you've had.
Yeah, no, in terms of mental health, it's
Yeah.
like I know that a lot of students can't even do their assignments, and you know, not even like a lot of us aren't even able to what's called function in the way that we would, but because we are not here to speak for hours and hours, I just want to say shout out to everyone that's listening. Thank you so much. Leah, would you do the honors of wrapping it
Sure.
up?
Well, you're listening to 106.1 FM, and this is going to be the end of the show, but we're going to exit now with a song from probably someone everybody's seen in the media lately, because he's been doing some really amazing stuff with, talking about these issues on his platform, and that's Masbo Q, and his song is Bad Energy, and hopefully we'll all see you again next weekend.
Awesome.
Have a great weekend, and we'll see you at the march.
Bye.
Mans, Posey, Grand Caliber. Bad energy, hey, let it fly by. First, hit him with the side eye. Clowning with me, that I wouldn't try. See me duck a bad vibe and watch it die. Bad energy, hey, let it fly by. First, hit him with the side eye. Clowning with me, that I wouldn't try. See me duck a bad vibe and watch it die. Hey, and when I say I'm all in, it's neither doubt nor a shadow. I kill my hesitation, put it underneath the meadow. Negativity just got a stomach full of arrows. Put a noose around my unbelief and hung it from the gallows. When I protect my energy, I'm anything but mellow. Bad vibes crushing like a slug under stilettos. I'm a church boy, but I might get froggy like a Fredo. Cause the best solution is replace the SO with a revo. What I do with guts, fam. And with the amount of skill you can fit into one man. Tell Candace she a sucker for being a Trump stand, but she don't have a clue. Guess she part of the Klux Klan. Trash rappers I put back in the dustpan. Duck bad verbs and attitudes I don't cuss, man. Clutch that blessing, my mama hustle with clutch hands. Never puff pass or skull back, just hung cash. The mad evil at the root of the love of loot. And power too, think the scene is due for another coup. So power to any motherlanders who coming through with power moves. Black power ooze, you about to view what I was do. Made a move, not designed for goons and coward dudes. Used to make code for pesos, amount of fuel, then I flew. Now I'm creating tunes, making your face screw like you was chewing on sour food. Bad energy, hey, let it fly by. First, hit him with the side eye. Count with me, that I wouldn't try. See me duck a bad vibe and watch it die. Bad energy, hey, let it fly by. First, hit him with the side eye. Count with me, that I wouldn't try. See me duck a bad vibe and watch it die.
I'm from the city where the hatred will leave them on pain. Rated M for mature with the picture I'm painting. They got that I'm a star mentality, fresh off the slave ship. And I keep everything together while chasing these payments. Obviously a go-getter I gotta be. Haters look against them, but that when I stop a G. Grew up 8 rap killers hustling all kind of things. Police flash shit, lights gripping, blood ones I can see. A way out, but I made it, get the hood still in me. Envious and depressed, cause I move consistently. Goal achieving all the time, you can call me to go. Blew a bag a few times, but I'm staying afloat. Still I don't recommend that y'all play me for a joke. Who naive, super solid, had no problem saying no. We're trying to get under my skin to get choked. It's a high probability. If you won't smoke, let it breathe, gotta chill. I'm a super chill dude. Whip a foot in your ass if you get a bit rude. To avoid all of that, I put force fills up. Easier to do that than to call your bluff. This is easy to step away from confrontation. Takes a whole lot of strength and a whole lot of patience. I've been so stressed out, I can snap like this beat. Keep that B-A-D energy from round me.
Bad energy, hey, let it fly by. First, hit him with the side eye. Count with me, that I wouldn't try. See me duck a bad vibe and watch it die. Bad energy, hey, let it fly by. First, hit him with the side eye. Count with me, that I wouldn't try. See me duck a bad vibe and watch it die.
reply. There's a wall I cannot tear down, and I can't touch the ground. All the sights and the sounds, they surround me. And you tell me that you need me to love you, feel you, be you. So I say, why are you in front of me? Can I just move around? Why are your hands so cold and lonely? Why do I need help from you? I never asked for this. Can I just keep my bliss and go my own way? You don't need it, you're a town away from damage now. Just move on. Let me show you I'm supposed to let you fall. Now I'm scared to grow. You say I told you so. Is there more to know? I can't trust the darkness of my own. Make me trust the unknown that I fall in. Said I'm falling. I said I'm falling. I said I'm falling. Ooh, I'm falling.
That program was brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Get your voice heard.
Thanks New Zealand On Air for funding the Access Internet Radio. 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 Access Internet Radio.